The Atlantean conspiracy, progression to major events. We'll start with 50,000 BC, but things were going on and going wrong way before that. If you remember, we talked about yesterday 208,216 BC as we entered the evolutionary dark cycle, because that's when D12 current could no longer anchor into the planetary grids. There was so much damage to the grids. So from then, it got worse. There are periods that I think we reviewed very briefly on one chart. I think it's in this book. It was some of the more recent data, where it explains there was literally a period between, I believe, 148,000 BC and 75,000 BC, where humans literally lived in subterranean civilizations because the Anunnaki races had come in force and taken over the surface. They were literally on planet. And then there was something, I believe it's 75,000 BC, I have the exact date in the other text, where it was something called the Inner Earth Rebellion, where the races from Inner Earth opened the portals and came up, because the Anunnaki races were starting to go through, trying to break through the portals of Inner Earth to raid there too, to get the halls of Amenti. So the Guardian races literally all got together, and some of the Illuminati races that didn't like the Illuminati ones that were on the surface all got together, and they prevented them, and they kicked the Anunnaki off the planet temporarily. So there has been this long history that goes back way longer than this, and we're just talking third seeding history. Remember, we were seated here 250 million years ago after the fall from Terra 550 million years ago. There were huge amounts of history that have to do with seeding one that culminated in the electric wars and total destruction of the races where they had to be reseeded. There's a huge history of seeding two. Some of that history is touched on in the Voyagers Volume 2 book, so I don't try to incorporate it into this because it is somewhere else. But this is just seeding 3 history. And this is the history that'll wake up our DNA template and our tribal shield with its original D12 coding. When we start to remember this and we start to see the sequence, feel the frequency sequence, and see the sequence of events. So we'll start right now with 50,000 BC. After a whole bunch of other stuff took place, in 50,000 BC, there's something called the Lemurian Holocaust. Jehovah and Anunnaki and their Anu Melchizedek Orantia Illuminati humans infiltrate Lemurian Marahavi. They allow Dracos, which are Omicron Draconian plus human hybrids, all right, to infiltrate, and it culminates in the destruction of the Maravi Pacific continent. What was really funny is the Jehovah and Anunnaki, they became the primary force here in the Lemurian areas. Now the Lemurian area, what was called Lemuria, was a continent called Marahavi that was over in the Pacific. It was smaller than Atlantis, and it was called like the Crescent continent because it actually shaped like a crescent. These maps we'll see before too long where the original continents were and then where they became island nations. So this was taking place in what we now call Hawaii, technically, because Hawaii is what is left of the Lemurian continent. The Jehovah and Anunnaki were taking over, and they allowed the Dracos to come in to try to help them, but then the Dracos tried to take them over. So the Jehovah and Anunnaki decided they wanted to be nice, and they tried to rally with the people of Atlantis and the Grail Lines and anybody they could get to help them to use the technologies to stop the Dracos. So they managed to get most of the Dracos trapped in underground tunnels. There's underground tunnel systems all the way beneath the ocean floor, literally beneath the continent and beneath what we call the ocean there now. They used the crystal generators, which are massive crystal pylons, which are like, building-sized crystals, and most of them are selenite, not just quartz, but selenite, because they run the frequencies better. They use those through the planetary grids. It's a scalar technology, scalar pulse technology, to try to seal the Dracos in to the Lemurian caverns. But what happened instead was they miscalibrated and they blew up, literally blew up the center of the continent, its main grids, and it literally shattered some of it. It created a mess. And again, part of it went into reversal, and it went into Phantom. Now, Phantom Matrix, as we talked about yesterday, started way before any of this. The Phantom Matrix is what was created 250 million years ago during the Lyran Elohim Wars, when Stargate 12, Universal Stargate 12, was originally blown up, and part of this time matrix grid literally was put into a black hole subtime distortion system. So the Phantom Matrix this is where all these fallen angelics are coming from, and it has a huge bearing on Earth history as well. They don't talk about it. In fact, they didn't introduce the full concept of Phantom Matrix until the most recent information that was given after October of last year. So we'll integrate that in as we go. But they managed to blow up the grids in what are now the Hawaiian Islands. That was the Lemurian Holocaust. In 28,000 BC, there was something called the Atlantean Holocaust. The Circe, Jehovian, and Palladian, Nibiru, and Luciferian Anunnaki, and their Melchizedek Illuminati humans attempted to seize inner Earth and Atlantis, culminating in cataclysm that reduced the Atlantic continent to 3 island nations, Brua, Nohasa, and Lohas. They are still visible. They're just renamed. So we have no idea. We're actually, part of Atlantis. Atlantis is right. What is left of it is sitting right in front of our faces. This one, Lohas, is England and Ireland. England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. They were all part of what was Lohas, Atlantis. Nohasa is now called the Bermuda Islands. Brua is what's left of the land around Sarasota, Florida, that went down into the Gulf of Mexico a little bit and down near where Cuba and those things are. These were all part, once, of the continent of Atlantis, and we'll show you the maps in a little bit. So, same thing happened here. This story was hysterical. Each one of these has literally a story. I mean, it could be a book unto itself of how it all happened and that kind of thing. We have some of this story done, and this gets into all sorts of fighting among the Illuminati races for who is going to dominate. Has to do with Thoth and Enoch heavily. And it's not in this book, because again, this is going to be in the Forbidden History book, the one that has all the detail on the history.